Hello, podcast listeners. This is your host with the most, JJ Gordon, coming to you from our super secret studios of the JJ Meets World franchise building. That's right. We got a lot of stuff happening here, and today we're going to talk about customer service. We're going to talk about fast food. We're going to talk about the Oregon Trail. There's a lot of stuff in today's episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a laugh with Tucker and I on this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
JJ, have you ever, you know the phrase sleep on it?
Yeah.
So you're thinking about a problem and then it's in your head, you can't solve it, you go to bed, and then maybe your subconscious can solve the problem, come up with a solution at the very least for the problem. Well, I had that moment this morning.
Oh, do tell.
So I've been struggling with the fact that, at least in our region of the country, we have way too many hockey players around here.
A lot of them.
It's crazy. Like, the hockey player population is just nuts. I mean, they run into traffic, they cause accidents, they eat the bark off trees, and they're always, shooting pucks through the grocery aisle. And just the other day, I walked through 4 separate hockey fights that just popped out of nowhere. One was in the parking lot at Hornbacher's. The other 3 were all in the deli.
Of Hornbacher's?
Of Hornbacher's.
Oh,
Hornbacher's
boy.
Express on South University.
Oh, my God. That's not a big deli.
It's a known hockey player hangout. Now, I'm not saying that hockey players are intrinsically bad. I get why we have them and why they're around. But, from time to time, when the population gets big, you have to cull the herd. Now, I'm not at all suggesting that the city of Fargo start issuing hunting permits for hockey players. I'm definitely not openly suggesting that we do that. Not openly. But I think I found the solution that we're not looking to eradicate these people. They're still creatures with emotions and thoughts, and we should take care of them. I don't want to wipe out all hockey players, but I think it's an objective fact that there's just too many at this point. So I think what we do is we keep fighting in hockey, but we let them use skates.
So like as a knife, as a cutting device.
You tell me, man. I mean,
or a stabbing device.
In the heat of battle, I think it can be anything. But I think we let them take care of the problem a little bit, right? We're saying hockey. We're saying fighting stays in hockey, but I'm not hearing about any hockey players dying from it.
I've got a differing opinion than you. I mean, you're essentially.
I mean, what's new? But okay,
you're essentially saying that you let the problem solve itself.
Well, I think it's a more humane solution than, say, having the city council of Fargo pass a resolution that allows groups of people to gather and hunt down hockey players. I don't think we should do that.
That's dangerous.
That's pretty aggressive. It's a little too aggressive.
Yeah. No. So what's the number one streaming service of the last 3 years to have started and grown by leaps and bounds?
Well, I think the only one that has really truly started was Disney Plus.
Correct. And Disney's known for a certain hockey series of films that they stopped making in the early 2000s.
Right.
And so it's no surprise that fights are breaking out left and right. It's because they have nothing to keep them inside.
We can't channel all this unchecked hockey aggression.
Right. That's why the brand new Mighty Ducks series that is premiering in less than a month at the time of this recording on Disney Plus will allow us to have them go indoors and sit and watch on repeat over and over and over these hockey films. I mean, at one point they put out the film Miracle. Disney's doing the bulk of the work in the world to keep hockey players at bay.
Right. And I I commend them for that, but I can see the effects on a national scale, but on a localized scale, there's a reason why we are a nation of 50 states, is because it's nearly impossible to control the hockey player population at a national level.
Well, and
you have to localize it.
They migrate clearly because they come to our neck of the woods when all of our 10,000 lakes are frozen,
right?
So that they can skate on them,
right?
And
can you imagine what's going to happen
fathers
in 30 years when the ice caps have fully melted and there's no ice up there for the hockey players to skate on? Where are they going to go?
Well, Gretzky's been building an underground bunker,
right?
And he's been working on some kind of a levitation skate, a la like the Mighty Ducks animated series.
Moving them underground would be solid. Okay, so then the Disney Plus release, is that going to include the animated series?
It'll reference it because they use the logo of the new Mighty Ducks, where it's like the animated duck helmet.
That was the thing I never understood. Was it in the canon of the Ducks franchise? Is it like a Tarantino film where some of his movies are in one universe and some of his other movies are movies in that universe? So like in the Mighty Ducks universe, was Emilio Estevez a fan of the cartoon, and so they picked that as the logo, or was it vice versa? Because
my understanding is that there's one Mighty Ducks universe, okay?
Right.
There's a single Mighty Ducks universe, and what happened was
the Estevez timeline.
In the Estevez timeline, at one point, Disney approached the Minneapolis Pee Wee Hockey League and said, "Hey, we read about this story of Gordon Bombay coming and taking care of all this stuff. That's great. We'd like to actually buy the rights to this." And they said, "Sure." Now, Gordon Bombay didn't have anything to do with this. They essentially just wanted the Mighty Ducks name to include in their already existing Duckiverse, including, of course, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck.
Gotcha. Okay. They're missing out on an opportunity to do like a Roger Rabbit style crossover with Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be really good.
I wonder if that's ever going to go anywhere. Why do we love ducks so much?
I know this.
Daffy Duck, Donald Duck.
I know this, that if they could get me to start buying Happy Meals again if we had some more duck-related toys coming through there. I think so. The Mighty Ducks cartoon really hit a sweet spot for me because they were aiming for, we've got this really popular hockey franchise, but there's still a lot of indoor kids that aren't tapped into it. So how can we make this as much like the Ninja Turtles as possible?
It would be like if you forced the X-Men to have a WNBA team.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, but also you're also going to be superheroes."
In all fairness, if the women of the X-Men faced off against the men of the X-Men in basketball, the women would fucking crush. And that's not even me trying to be a progressive, woke gentleman of the 21st century. I think they have Rogue, they have Storm, they have Jean Grey. You could just do just have Jean Grey and you're going to win. So I think an X-Men populated WNBA might just be what the doctor ordered.
Now, would that be fair though to the other teams? I always wondered that in the Mighty Ducks. Is it fair that this team has superpowers?
Well, is it fair that
they're facing off against other regular hockey teams?
I mean, is it fair that the Yankees have the biggest budgets they can pay for the?
There's a huge difference between having a giant flying Yankees logo and just by spending the most money every year to buy the best players.
I never did dive into the origins of the Mighty Ducks animated series. Are they aliens or are they mutated ducks? They're not crossed with humans, I don't think.
No, and they exist in a human universe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's like Biker Mice from Mars, where they're from Mars. Okay, I get it. I'll have to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, if they use some kind of an ooze, if they're going for listen, we're going to take the Wayne Gretzky's All Stars cartoon, and we're going to take Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and a little bit of X-Men and shove them all together into one spot.
We'll never see that era again, will we? How do we turn people into superheroes in this Saturday morning cartoon variation?
Oof. You're talking about some really tough things. In fact, just yesterday I was thinking to myself, kids today will never have a Saturday morning cartoon.
Do you know? So I think I'm trying to remember what year these came out. I was obsessed with the Gargoyles for a hot minute.
Gargoyles is the most underutilized Disney property of all time. It's a great story.
I always loved that animation in the open where Goliath is coming out of his rocky exterior, out of the statue, and it just was so cool. And I would have fantasies about being a gargoyle at my elementary school because
And like watching out.
for the kids on the playground. And if a girl that I thought was really cute was being bullied, then I would turn into this monster that would defend her, and then she would want to date me.
Wow.
Dude,
What a superhero complex.
I had a breakthrough in therapy the other day.
Did you?
Which is that
based off of that?
No, based off of how early in my life I was girl crazy.
Oh.
I was girl crazy, I'd say by age 4. I think I remember like babysitters coming over and thinking she's really pretty, right? And by the time I was in elementary school, like I loved girls, but that was not cool, right? Girls were gross to boys, supposedly, and boys were gross to girls, supposedly, and you had to toe that line. And I have a memory of I'm going to change some names here so that I don't embarrass anybody, but coming back to school after summer break and being like, guys, did you see Susie Perkins? Man, and then before I could finish, one of them would be like, yeah, she was gross. She's gross. And I'd have to go, yeah, that's what I was going to say too, that she's way gross. She's way grosser than I remember her being last year. In fact, she's so gross, I definitely don't want to kiss her on the mouth or get married to her ever. Like that would be like my thing. So I'd like keep that to myself for a number of years. And oftentimes the sort of, the fantasy would play out, the win the girl fantasy would revolve around the things I was into, like superheroes. It was always, I'd get a superpower and I'd go and I'd save Susie Perkins and then we'd go get married.
Did you draw pictures of you with these girls?
No, because I loved drawing and I loved doodling, but I always knew, even from the get-go, that my drawings of women were really bad. Like I could kind of do the muscly superheroes that I was seeing all the time, but the female characters, I never felt confident enough to draw them because I just never felt like I could. Mm-hmm. It always looked wrong to me when I drew them. So no, I did not draw my crushes.
Any hearts in your yearbook?
Not hearts. I think I have red stars.
Oh.
I think I tried to use a secret code.
So
I have to double check that now. I've got my 3rd grade yearbook on the shelf at home right now.
If you were to go and I have a laptop, I have probably a dozen laptops sitting in like a cupboard because I've always been afraid to get rid of a piece of technology that I've owned at some point.
What might be on this?
So this was the first laptop my family owned. Probably weighed about like 25 pounds. I mean, the power cord on this thing was enormous.
Did it have the red dot that you could use?
It did not. It was not a ThinkPad.
Okay.
It was another brand that did not have the ThinkPad piece on it. But what it did have was like the 2nd edition of the Oregon Trail.
Ooh.
And in this edition, you could go into the diary and add stuff. And so if you were able to find a power cord and this thing would power up, you would find at least 3. Because even if you died, you could still, like, it saved the journal for you, and you could look back at previous journals and stuff like that. You could go back and find myself and like, we'll say Dot and Margot and Gretchen,
right?
We're all
your
like
crushes.
Yeah, so
your harem,
and you could add them as the other people who are inside of your wagon, right?
Right.
So it'd be JJ, banker. I was always the banker because you started with the most money, and then the girls I was crushing on at the time. And it would include details about like how like one of them wants to marry me, but I told him like I can't get married because there's 3 of you to take care of at the time. And another weird aspect of this is in the game itself, when you died along the trail, you could fill out your headstone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then when you'd play the game again, you'd say like, there's a headstone. Would you like to read it? And so you could read every time you played it, like more and more headstones would appear. Right. Mm-hmm. So I would detail in my headstone that here lies the body, of JJ, but also these 3 women who threw themselves upon the grave and were buried with me because they were so obsessed.
like the pharaohs of old.
Yep.
They were buried with me.
So It's probably close to 20 years since I last fired that thing up. And it's embarrassing, but it also like is interesting because it's this weird like, and I know when we had this laptop because we had our old lake cabin, must have been in 4th grade when I was using it. So 1994. And it's interesting.
When I played Final Fantasy VII, that was when I would still change the names of all the characters if you could. And then later I just was like, no, I'm just going to go with the names that they gave them. But at that point, I would always change the names. And early on, you meet Tifa, and you're like, oh, this is going to be the love interest. And so I did give her the first name of the girl that I was crushing on hard and had been crushing on for years at this time. And I'm pretty sure she doesn't listen to this, but if she did, she would know I would be talking about her right now, even though I never said I named a character in Final Fantasy VII after you. But then as the game progresses, you find out that no, the true love is actually Eris. And I'm like, oh, damn it. I picked the wrong one.
I also had one celebrity crush that I included all the
Cindy
time.
Crawford.
Nope.
What?
Nope.
That is the go-to JJ
Cindy
celebrity
Crawford
crush.
really started later on in my life.
I'm going to try to guess again.
You're never going to. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'll even give you a hint. You referenced a filmmaker already who is obsessed with this person. Yeah. See?
Ooh, hold on.
See? Your head's just tick,
I
tick,
referenced
tick, tick,
in
tick,
this?
tick. Yeah, already in this recording.
I'm trying to think what filmmakers I referenced. Because I can always think of Tarantino and Uma Thurman. It's Uma Thurman.
It's Uma
That's
Thurman.
who it is.
It's Uma Thurman.
When did I say Tarantino?
You're talking about how, is this like the different universes?
Oh, okay.
The Emilio timeline.
Yep. See, I think that Kevin Smith needs to adopt the same rule for the View Askew universe, because I was looking at the list of what.
Yeah, it'd be Joey Lauren Adams.
Well, it's right, exactly. But it would be. I was wondering what is part of the canon, because he has films that aren't part of the canon, and I thought, well, maybe those are movies in the universe of View Askew. So, like Cop Out.
Yeah,
that's not part of the View Askew universe canon. Neither is Jersey Girl, a few others. But yeah.
Did you ever see Tusk?
No.
Let's talk about movies that Kevin Smith made that you go like, whoa, I'm pretty sure he made Tusk. Yeah, he did because
he did.
Because that's also what launched the hockey girls movie that he did with his daughter.
With Harley.
Yeah. Tusk is about a man who's a podcaster who's trying to collect interesting stories like in Canada. And he hears of this guy who owns this giant mansion. So he goes to this mansion. It's only this guy there. He's in a wheelchair. He's an old man. And then he's drugged. And then he wakes up and the guy has sewn his legs together, like in a seated position, like on a chair, sewn them together. And he starts telling him this story about being shipwrecked and ends up on this small island where his body is brought onto this like little tiny rock island and cared for by a walrus.
Wow.
And this walrus saved his life. So now he's become obsessed with a walrus.
Is he trying to turn him into a walrus?
He does turn him into a walrus.
Okay.
In the most disturbing prosthetics I have ever seen with Justin Long. And then the whole point of it is he needed to eat while he was on this island. And so he eventually killed the walrus that had saved his life. And he's always felt bad that walrus never had a chance to like defend itself. And so this guy has also built a walrus suit for himself. And the movie culminates in now what is essentially a human being that's been turned into a walrus fighting him in a walrus suit. And it is messed up.
That might be one of the worst premises I've ever heard.
Yeah, and every time you come back, he's done something else to him. Like, he's sewing his legs together. And at one point, like...
Is it supposed to be funny? Is it supposed to be absurd?
I think it's supposed to be more absurd. It's supposed to be unsettlingly funny.
Okay, so it's more like kind of a send-up of stuff. Or is it parodying stuff?
I don't think it's necessarily a parody.
Was this before or after Human Centipede?
Oh, you know what? This is after. So maybe it's something akin. Maybe it is.
Because usually...
Maybe it's his take on like...
His thing seems to be like, oh, here's me making commentary on this thing, right? From the Kevin Smith perspective. And which is mostly a fan perspective, right? Like, I love these things and let's let's put them together and make one of them. So, but I haven't. Well, it hasn't even been released yet. The Jay and Silent Bob reboot, right?
It has.
I thought it would just went on a tour, but they didn't do a release.
So they canceled the tour because of COVID-19.
Oh, that's right.
And they made it available to stream
How
online.
did I forget this pandemic we've been going through?
Right. So people could stream it. It's already, I believe, on Amazon Prime,
Okay.
as just a regular Prime available.
The reason why I was looking at the View Askew Universe stuff is because I have my interest in collecting media again has reignited
Good.
in a really, really heavy way. And I am excited about today, JJ. You want to know why?
Why?
Because back at my apartment, in a box I haven't opened yet, are 200 generic Blu-ray cases that are slim that I'm repackaging all of my discs in. And I'm going to put them on the shelf, and I'm so excited.
Ooh.
And they're not even like the tall ones. They're just disc size.
Okay.
And I got blue ones that are clear and clear ones with no coloring. And so here's the thing. I think that DVD and Blu-ray packaging is the ugliest thing on planet Earth. It's basically the equivalent of just being in Walmart looking at DVD packaging. I think it's ugly, with a few exceptions. From time to time, they packaged this nicely, so I might keep it. I want to keep discs. I like media, but having them on my shelf for me to look at, it actually makes me kind of sick. I just think it's gross. It would be like if Jill, like you came home and Jill had put up a big painting of squeezing
like mustard,
mayo
like
and
a
mustard, on a man's butthole, right? You would be like, why is this on this? I can't look at this. Well,
it would burn.
It would burn your eyes. I would have
your butt.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's so much like vinegar in this
and it's not like icy hot where it's supposed to maybe be kind of pleasurable, or a fig. Instead, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But it would be like that. So I thought, okay, I don't have this aversion to VHS for some reason.
Okay.
But for DVD and Blu-rays, I do. I just think they're gross. But I want to keep them, the discs, and I want to put them on my shelf in some way so I can grab them at any time and use them. So I'm going in an extreme repackaging where I'm basically condensing everything down to these little slim cases with like no book insert or anything. And they won't even have a spine label on them. It'll basically be like a comic where you have to look for the letter, the A's, and then file through the A's to find them.
Can I tell you about one of the dumbest things that I've ever done in my life?
Sure.
I think you would agree that I have a very robust DVD collection.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I worked at a video store, so we were able to buy things for a quarter above what we paid for them. Like if people came in and sold us DVDs. So for a while, and we'd say like, listen, each of these are only worth $1 a piece. So I was buying DVDs at $1.25 a pop. Some of them amazing. And here's a fact: we used to screw people over because I wanted to buy something for $1.25. So someone would come in with something I know I could easily sell on Amazon for $50, like a Band of Brothers box set, and I'd give them $1 for it. So
Look at you.
When I
Monopoly's taught you well.
so well. When I moved back from Chicago this last time, I had gotten to the point of where my DVD collection was so large, I was using pre-made stair treads, things that people use to make a staircase at 8 feet long a pop, on top of glass blocks that went all the way to the ceiling.
Yep.
And it was like that amount of cases, like it was 6 giant boxes of just of cases.
Yeah. JJ
So I
was
decided-
basically, you could have functioned as your own rentals shop if you wanted to.
Truth be told, at one point, one of my managers and I were going to open a rental shop. And I said, don't worry, we've already got the product. It's right here. And it's incredibly well curated with great. It's like everything you want that you need to have like a great video rental store. And then the weirdest other stuff you'd ever imagine. So, but no bum fights. Never got into bum fights. Just want to be the person to state that. So I get home from Chicago and I decide I got to do something about this. So I decide I'm going to put my DVDs in CD cases, right? Like the big 400 CD wallet.
Yep.
So I have to buy 5 of those to be able to fit all the discs in there. And at this point, CDs were no longer popular. Everyone had moved to the iPod and streaming was just becoming a thing. So these CD wallets were expensive because stores didn't need to really carry them that much anymore. And Amazon Basics hadn't become a thing yet.
Mhm.
So now I'm stuck with all of these cases, and I put them all into my mom's like attic, just U-Haul box after U-Haul box of empty cases. At one point, my mom says, you got to do something with this stuff. We can't fit anything else up in the attic because it's just full of boxes of DVD cases. So I decide, you know what? You're right. So I go and I take out the cover art sleeve of every single DVD case, and I take the plastic cases and I offer them up to friends. Anybody want, 1,500 DVD cases? And a couple of people grab some here and a couple of people grab some there. And so then I was done with it. Well, at one point, I put all of these in all of this cover art into a box somewhere. And at some point, somebody threw away that box. So you might think, well, JJ, it doesn't matter because you put all these discs into binders anyway. What's the big deal? So now that I have begun taking my collection to new heights, including the digital realm, Voodoo, which is Walmart, I believe their proprietary...
Is that VUDU?
VUDU, has a deal where you can scan the barcode of your DVD or Blu-ray, and if it's part of a deal they have with all the major distributors, you can get a digital copy of it for only $2.
Okay.
So let's say I bought The Muppets Take Manhattan, and I want a digital copy of it. I already own it. I own a piece of physical media, but I also want a digital copy. I could scan it, pay $2, and have a digital copy, which is phenomenal. Because if I was going to buy just the digital copy, go on Amazon or Voodoo itself, we're talking like $10.
Right.
Right? I don't have any of those UPC codes.
Oh,
they're all gone.
There you go. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So one of the dumbest things I've ever done was take those things out of their cases and not be able to use them.
Yeah.
But
do you have stuff to rip with?
Yeah. But the problem is that I like having it on a program, right? That I can log into, and then they're taking care of the hosting and everything like that.
Right.
It's all in one spot. Now I am working on my Plex library, which should solve all those problems.
Sure, for sure.
But, it's still kind of nice. But
even-
also, Voodoo also unlocks all the special features. So, like, if you've got something and it does have a commentary track, you can listen to the commentary track on stuff.
Gotcha.
Speaking of which, I have also recently just purchased every Shout Factory and special edition DVD of anything Joe Dante's ever directed so that I can listen to his commentaries, because that guy knows so much about movie making. And not to take us out too far on a tangent, are you familiar with like Roger Corman's New World Pictures from back in the day?
No.
So Roger Corman was this guy who made schlocky kind of rip-off movies of other movies, right? So this guy was ultra cheap, but he could see talent. And so Joe Dante made like Piranha for Roger Corman, which is a parody of Jaws, or an homage to Jaws. And it went on to become ultra successful. Roger Corman was also the one they hired in the 90s, 20th Century Fox.
That's right, to do Fantastic Four.
Yep. And so he made that schlocky Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And so Roger Corman, so these are the people who got their start because of Roger Corman, because of this guy hiring them at his studio to be production designers and eventually directors and writers and stuff like that. Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, James Cameron, Joe Dante, Bill Paxton. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all these people who will say, how did you get your start? And they're like, Roger Corman hired me.
Gotcha.
Roger Corman hired me. So I would love to see a Roger Corman biopic at some point that comes out. I'm also listening to a podcast right now called Blockbuster. Did you ever listen? I think I told you to listen to the first season,
a couple
right?
of times before, yeah.
The second season's about James Cameron.
Okay.
And like what he had to do to become like who he is today. And did you know that when they released Terminator, like it made $4 million its opening weekend against a $20 million budget, and they like Orion, the company who put the money, was like, we're not really going to put any more money into this thing.
Huh.
And so even though they had a hit on their hands, they're like, no, this has done what it's going to do. It's at the end. And now you think it's one of the biggest franchises of all time.
No kidding. God.
Also, in your office, I noticed that you've got one of the circular plugins right here. I don't think there's anything behind it, is there?
There's nothing. No, there was a piece sitting in there loosely. It was actually supposed to be an old like phone connection that hasn't been used for a while.
Okay.
And when I repainted this wall, I just didn't replace that circular piece.
Because it looks like it's a 220 outlet, like meant for like a dryer or something like that. You know,
gotcha.
the round plug there.
Gotcha.
And I thought to myself, why is there a 220 outlet in this room? Let me tell you about another story. I saw a 220 outlet that didn't belong. Previous guest Shelly Pearson, whenever she turned 19, I think it was her 19th or 20th birthday, somewhere around there. I took her to a strip club, and it was a new strip club in Fargo called the Bada Bing. And it opened like in north of Fargo, like in Harwood. And it essentially was just a Quonset that had a big plywood wall that separated from where you walked in. And then you paid someone who had a folding desk right there. Just giant open space. They had a folding desk. And they had a 24-pack of Mountain Dew. So if you wanted to buy a Mountain Dew, it was a buck a can. And then you could go in. And this place is 18 plus because they didn't serve alcohol. So it meant that they could get...
I feel like I'm there with you.
Yeah, it is the most like when you think of the seediest places you've ever been, this was one of the seediest experiences I've ever had in my entire life.
Gary, Indiana, Atlantic City,
yeah,
and this place.
It's burned into my mind. Aberdeen, South Dakota also is on that list. And so you walk through this wall, and then it's nothing but like 18-year-old guys who are so nervous they all have their hoodies up and you can't see their faces.
Couple grubby ones in their hands.
But on the stage, which was really high, it was like 15 feet off the ground. And all it was just a giant plywood box that someone had built. At the end of it, there was a 220 plug. And I thought to myself, where they put a dryer on here, like in between like shifts so that you could dry your clothes? Like, I don't get it. By the way, that place closed down about a week and a half after it opened.
So was the mystery of the 220 plug ever solved?
No. And the stage was built specifically so that you could access this 220 plug.
Mike, you're saying that they built the stage to accommodate the 220 plug. So this wouldn't have been like a building that was used for something previously.
It clearly was.
Okay.
That had a 220 plug in the wall. But this, like I said, this is like 10 feet off the ground.
What year was this?
This is like in 2000.
So no one's charging their Tesla off
like
that thing.
maybe like 2010, somewhere around there.
Okay, yeah.
It's weird. It's always, every now and then you see one of those plugs in a place that you're like, did they have an oven? Were they hooking up an oven so that they could bake cookies?
Do they use that same plug-in for refrigerators?
No. Refrigerators are a 110.
Okay. Look at you. Look at you with this 220 and 110.
Yeah, I know.
Look at that. You take 110, you multiply it by 2, and you get 220.
That's right. And grounded outlets, like, you should have a grounded. If you don't have an outlet that's grounded, call an electrician, get it grounded.
Here's a mystery that I've been chewing on for the past week. I went to McDonald's the other day because I wanted some chicken nugs.
And you wanted McDonald's chicken nuggets?
Yeah, specifically.
Okay.
And
do you try the mighty hot sauce?
I tried it once, and it just the hot sauce itself. Yeah, the spicy. They've had spicy ones before that just weren't anything. Or I might be confusing that with Burger King, but I just do straight up plain chicken nugs with BBQ.
Okay.
And there was a sign in the drive-thru that I'd never noticed before, and it was essentially saying, "Please no cell phones in the drive-thru," and it said it interferes with our computer system. I know immediately I'm thinking that's bullshit. There's zero chance.
I can use a cell phone in a plane.
Yeah, there's zero chance that their computer system, hey guys, we got this great new computer system. Unfortunately, cell phones mess it up. And since every person in this building and in this city has one, we're going to have to ask people to take them, to not use them. So I asked a few friends of mine who have worked in fast food, like, is this real? And they have all said, no, there's no reason, like legitimately for the computer system. What it might be is because they're sick of teenagers on TikTok slowing up the line or something. Sure. So they put up a sign thinking, well, hopefully a third of the people who look at this are too dumb to realize that this isn't actually a thing. And they'll put their phone away. But I cannot imagine being someone working at McDonald's for minimum wage going, yeah, you're paying me enough to tell people to get off their cell phone. You know, people react when you tell them to not do a thing that they do.
Oh, they're so mad.
Oh my goodness. Like, ugh. So, anyways, that was a mystery, and I just thought it's got to be because they're trying to affect the behavior of the people in the line. But there's no way that it's affected by cell phones.
And they don't want to say, please, please don't be using social media apps while you're at the window, because that's going to be like, they think they're going to be like, oh yeah, I forgot I got social media apps. Getting my Shamrock Shake on. Only you could see what I did there to like make it look like a social media video. It's funny you mentioned McDonald's because I've got a couple thoughts about McDonald's. Number one, America is not smart enough for any lane, anytime, which is the 2-lane system that you can find at McDonald's.
Right. The whole zipper thing is just lost on people.
We're just not smart enough to do it, because what'll happen is someone won't pull up far. The point of it is that when you get done ordering, you pull up as far as you can to the car in front of you. And so you, like you said, zipper your way in.
And you go, did the car to the right of me or in the other lane, have they gone ahead of me? So now it is my turn to enter in the zipper formation.
Right. I don't know. Did they order before me and they've been waiting to get into, like.
And ultimately, this is something that you're kind of expected to navigate with your fellow drivers. Like one of you hopefully will have asserted it early enough that, we're both on the same page at who is in what order. And there can be those moments where the person in front of you has gone and you're waiting for the person to the other lane to go, but you can tell they're hung up on their order and you have finished your order really quick. Well, then you can cut ahead, but you really have to be sure that they see and they can tell that, hey, I'm already done, so I'm going to keep the line going instead of waiting for you to figure out how many number 2s you want.
Also, there's a mentality, I think, of, now that I've placed my order, give me my food right now. I want my food. Yep. I don't want it to get cold. Give it to me.
I appreciate it when they say, hey, could you please move up to slot 1 or 2? Because yes, I'm still in line, but now my expectations have been realistically set. Like, okay, yep, they're in a spot right now where there's some, and so they're taking steps to try to keep the line moving. Well, I get that. They've communicated with me.
I don't like that.
You don't like that?
And I'll tell you why. Some poor McDonald's employee is being forced now to hand deliver my bag outdoors. And
it's exercise, JJ. They're walking 20 feet.
No. I think that you could find a correlation between people getting the flu, strep throat, ear infections, pneumonia, because you run that thing out so quick, but it could be 10 below zero. You're not putting a coat on. You don't have a time to go back to the locker room, put on your coat to run it out. They're like, get this kid his chicken nuggets. He's already been sitting in spot 1 for 45 seconds.
Right.
Because they're timing everything. It's all about time. So I don't think it's fair to the McDonald's employees. I think when we get to the point of where a pneumatic tube could deliver your food at that point, no sweat. Tube this up to space 1.
So let's just be clear. You're calling for big government regulation of drive-thrus.
No, I'm calling for the McDonald's Corporation to value its employees. Because there is...
I think they do value them at like $12.75 an hour.
There's on the horizon. There's gonna be a huge bill to pay, and it's not with money. You pay that bill with respect.
I am all about lessening the human contact I have to endure when getting fast food. I'm all about that. At the same time, one of the subways in town instituted a
lot of them have. Are you talking about the touchscreen?
Yeah.
A lot of them
I had
have.
only noticed the one in South University, so I'm guessing more have.
South 25th Street as well.
So I think the spirit of the idea is there. Like, okay, we're moving towards a more technologically advanced thing, and the idea is that less human contact, blah, blah, blah. But we're still touching this thing. Now I'm having to actually physically touch this screen out here that no one's sanitizing.
And you got to use that finger to eat your sandwich.
Exactly. And it's not making it easier for me to make my order. It's actually making it harder because now I have to navigate their system. And if I want to be able to communicate extra things that you would communicate to a person
who already knows how to punch it in,
already knows how to punch it, now you have to figure that thing out. And then they're still physically handing you the food. So you're still coming into contact with a human being. It shouldn't be that way. It should be like the drive-through and you're talking to the person. Great. And let's get speakers that actually work. Like the speaker technology and these things have. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, McDonald's. Let's pick it up a bit. But then you should have some system where you never, like a robot should prepare your food. Like a human shouldn't touch it.
So
and I don't care that we're going to lose all those jobs.
Taking this back to McDonald's, Have you used the McDonald's on like mobile ordering system where you essentially you put your order together and you can save favorited orders. You get to McDonald's and you pull into space 1 or 2, and then you hit submit order.
Right.
And it takes care of your credit card. You don't have to hand that to anybody. It's all done. And then somebody comes out and says, "Are you Tucker?" And you say yes. And they're like, "Have a great day. Smiles are free."
Man, I'm torn by that because I love that, but I don't need more behaviors in my life to reinforce going to McDonald's. Like I'm trying to end that habit.
But let me tell you something. It makes going to McDonald's so much better. And I have been to McDonald's.
That's a problem, JJ.
Yeah, I've been to McDonald's twice today.
If you were like, look, they've made heroin now where you don't even have to inject it through your skin. It's not like, well, now I got to do that.
I've been to McDonald's twice today, okay, for separate reasons.
And by the way, it's only 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yep, and I'll explain. And both times, I was so frustrated with the human element of it that I thought, you know what, this isn't the point. One of them was, of course, the zipper line. So I never use the drive-through lane anymore. But both times a day, for whatever reason, I chose. So the first time I went there is my wife, who's a type 1 diabetic, loves the sugar-free cappuccino that McDonald's offers. It's got a sugar-free vanilla substitute. And McDonald's has good coffee. You know, if you just are looking for a cup of coffee, McDonald's has a good cup of coffee. Also, their Diet Coke and Coke taste better than anywhere else. And that's because they actually put some scientists in a room and they're like, scientists, make this Coke taste the best it can. And they're like, you know what you could do? You could cool down the bags of the syrup. And so that way when it mixes, it's mixing at a cold temperature. So at no point are you ever like having to cool down, blah, blah,
right.
blah.
That makes sense.
And so like, think about when we worked at the Fargo Theater. Those things just sat in a dusty basement.
Yep.
It was room temperature when it was getting mixed.
Yep.
If they were cold, it probably would have been even better.
I can't remember. Did we scoop the ice?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
we
did.
scooped. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Awful.
Awful.
Ugh.
Awful
Not
times.
only did we scoop ice, remember, we scooped it downstairs, put it into a bucket, and then brought it upstairs, and then filled our ice hopper that way.
That's right. And I think that's probably what they still will do once they reopen.
Also, I remember the guy who was like the theater tech there going and using his bare hands.
Oh, Ruff. That guy?
Yep.
Chaz.
Yeah. And who just was an awful smelling person, had the grossest toenails you ever see. But he just used his hands and fill his cooler. And I'd be like, hey. And he'd be like, hey, buddy, what's up? And then he'd know he's not supposed to do it. But what were you going to do?
Yep.
Anyway.
He just,
I drink that ice. Ugh.
I loved that his greeting to you would be, anyone would be like, Ruff.
Yeah.
He'd say
he didn't want to call you Tucker because he didn't know what your name was.
Didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, man. Hey, bud.
So I ordered this sugar-free cappuccino and a Diet Coke for myself. It's like a Sunday morning treat.
Yep.
Right? So I went to a McDonald's I don't normally go to, which is also a problem. So I go to this McDonald's, and then I pay for it, and then I pull up to the window where I accept my food stuffs. And they hand me my Diet Coke, and then they hand me a frozen Frappuccino.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I was like, excuse me. And she's closed the window. Excuse me. I finally have to honk my horn to get this woman's attention again. And she turns around and she goes, what? And I said, I ordered a sugar-free cappuccino, not a frozen drink. And so she takes it back and then she sets it right down there. And then she doesn't do anything, like she doesn't look at a screen or anything like that. Waits just a second, staring into the abyss, opens the window again, like, nope, this is what it says on the order. And I'm like, nope. And I have my receipt and I'm like, sugar-free cappuccino. And another woman behind her goes, what's his deal? And she goes, he says he ordered a sugar-free cappuccino. We don't have that. And so this woman then turns to me and goes, we don't have that. We don't have that. And I'm like, well, it says here, sugar-free cappuccino. And she's like, yeah, sugar-free frappuccino. And I'm like, cappuccino. And she's like, what? And I said, on the ticket, sugar-free cappuccino.
And this is something that you've ordered before.
Many times.
Okay.
So finally, a manager walks over and he goes, what seems to be the issue here? And she's like, he ordered something that's not on the menu. And he's like, what? Like a Whopper? And then I think, screw you, dude. I know I'm a pudgy guy, but pudgy people know the difference between Burger King and McDonald's, you son of a bitch.
Right.
So then she says, no, he ordered a sugar-free cappuccino and we don't make those. And he goes, yes, we do. And so they went over to the woman running the coffee and he goes, you put the sugar-free syrup, and you make a cappuccino, but use a sugar-free. Then she's like, well, I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know that? And so they're having this fight in there. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there being like, am I going to get this coffee or am I going to have to go and pick some beans, brew them myself? So like she comes over and she goes, okay, so here you go, but it's a different price than the Frappuccino.
It's like, F you, lady.
Right. Well, and I also want to be like, but I didn't order a Frappuccino. Right. So if the Frappuccino is $4 and you're handing me something that's $2, I paid the $2. Do you see this right here? Mm-hmm. And so I just took it and I left. And then I get just outside the parking lot and then I go, oh, come on. Didn't give me a straw.
Gotcha.
Did not give me a straw. So I immediately pull over into a parking lot of a gas station, pull the receipt back and be like, survey time, baby. And so I start filling out the survey. And you know what? This must happen so often. One of the 10 complaints, because there's like 10 options, and then other was, I didn't receive, a fork or a knife, straw. Mm-hmm. Like this is happening so frequently that McDonald's has included that as part of their write-up.
Yep.
So that's time number 1 at McDonald's.
All right.
Time number 2, before I do this recording, I went there because I wanted another Diet Coke. It's a great taste. The Diet Coke really is friggin' amazing.
Scientifically calibrated. I thought you would quit soda.
I did. And then I fell, I fell off the wagon.
I guess you did, yeah.
Completely fell off the wagon. And I'll try again at some point. Sure. I will. It's been stressful. My life's been stressful lately. So I decide I'm going to get a Diet Coke for this recording because Tucker never cleans out the coffee cups. So I'm like, ugh.
These are all clean as of today.
There's lipstick on this one.
Well,
what are you going to do?
I mean,
there's no lipstick.
I know.
In fact, I don't think we've had a guest in 6 months who's worn lipstick to one of these recordings.
Honestly, we've hardly had a guest in 6 months.
What, Sigourney Weaver come out of the 1980s and like take a sip out of this? So I go back to McDonald's again. I'm using the drive-thru to just order a Diet Coke. And I know that sounds weird, but I've asked a couple people who work there and they say, yeah, our Coke tastes so good, people will come and just get a Coke. Yeah. Plus only $1. Any size, $1.
Right.
Huge savings.
Right. This is not like the employee has any skin in the game over whether or not you're getting a $1 order or a $20 order.
So I place my order for 1 large Diet Coke. All right. Thank you so much. That'll be $107. So I start driving. The zipper to any lane, anytime messes everybody up. So when I get to the window, what I see before me is I see a woman and she keeps putting the number 2. She's using her hand and reaching out of the window and using 2 like over and over and over. And this guy has got money on his hand and he's waving like, no. He's waving both his hands. He's got money in one. No. And then she keeps going 2 and he's like, no. And then I see him like get so frustrated that the car starts shifting back and forth. Like he's in the car having it looks like he's having a seizure. And so finally she like comes out and then she goes and gives the sign for 1. And then the car drives forward. No money exchanges hands. Okay. So then I get up there and I think, God damn it, am I in some kind of pay it forward situation where that dude paid $1.04 for my Coke and now I'm on the line for 20 McChickens or something. No. So I get up there and I hear this woman talking to me and she's like, well, he was mad, but he understands. So she turns to me and she goes, all right, that'll be 2 double cheeseburgers, da-da-da-da-da. And I start shaking my head, no. And she's like, let me finish. And then she gets through the rest of it.
It was your fault. You weren't waiting for her to be done.
And so... Let me finish.
I already know the order you're saying is wrong.
I'm like, no. And so she gets to the end and she goes, and I'm shaking my head and she goes, $15.75. And I said, no, it's 1 Diet Coke. And she goes, oh.
That was what she thought that guy wanted?
No. So she goes, okay, it'll be $16.75.
She thought
she
to add
added a Diet Coke to it. And I said, no, I just want 1 Diet Coke. She goes, so you don't want the McChickens and McDoubles. And I said, that is not my order. all I ordered was one Diet Coke. And she goes, oh, you're the one. Okay.
Yep.
And she's also taking an order. Like,
Yep.
she's not only taking my money, but she's also ringing in someone else's order at the time. So they're probably getting a McChicken in a Diet Coke cup.
I've always wondered what the zipper thing does to the order of orders back there, because they often have to check with you. Are you this one? And usually they get it right, but I always wondered, are they just kind of, I think this is you, so let's just double check? I mean, you would think that there could be some sort of like camera tech. Well, this is the thing. Every time I pull into a drive-thru at McDonald's now, what's the first thing they say? They say, welcome back to McDonald's. Like, it's nice to see you again, our old friend. And I'm guessing that they're just going, chances are if they've been here, if they're here, they've been here before, right? But it gives the feeling that they're tracking you and they recognize you. They're like, oh, this guy really likes 4 cheeseburgers with no pickles.
How would you like this if McDonald's invested in a technology that takes a picture of your license plate when you come forward, and then it coincides that with your credit card when it comes through, the name on it, so that when you pull up and this thing reads it, a readout comes out and they're like, hey, Tucker, welcome back to McDonald's. Would that blow your mind?
It wouldn't blow my mind. It would unsettle me.
I'd love it.
I don't need... McDonald's is already getting enough for me. They don't need my data as well.
Have you ever been someplace so often that they know your like name through a speaker or something like that?
You know what? No, I haven't. But here's the thing. The thing that I'm reacting to negatively is merely it calling me by name.
Really?
If it was just like listen, let's just make this process as foolproof and as humanless as possible, because that's what's going on here. This isn't me going to a friend's home and being served a warm meal where I'm here for human interaction, right? I want empty calories to fill my brain with dopamine for a solid 5 minutes so I can ignore the fact that life usually sucks. So like that's what that's for, right? That is to keep you medicated. And so I would be totally down with something where I didn't have to hear any stupid voice go, oh, when you said 4 cheeseburgers with no pickles, that also meant no cheese and no sauce, right? Because that's what often happens is they hear no pickles and they say, oh, that means nothing delicious, nothing good on there. Man, we are entitled, aren't we, JJ?
So let me tell you the plus side of my lifelong McDonald's experience, because I'm also a guy I always get plain cheeseburgers. And it's not because I don't love pickles and onions and ketchup, but I know that I hate mustard so much that even if I say no mustard, the chances of there being mustard on there is much greater than if I say plain, because I feel like that triggers something in somebody's sight line of going, oh, okay, plain,
right?
None of stuff. So the South University McDonald's, which is the McDonald's I've gone to my entire life. It's been there, I think, since I was born, so early 80s. And I've watched it change over the years from the like 1950s throwback McDonald's look with the brown brick and stuff like that to the ultra modern spaceman McDonald's that it is today. There have been a slew of employees there who I feel not only are great at being McDonald's employees, but are also human beings that have made my life richer for it. One of them was a woman who was probably in her early to mid 40s who worked there for several years. And they ran a story about her in the paper one day. And they said, from nothing to like assistant manager. And so this woman had left an abusive relationship and was homeless and was staying at the women's shelter, which is 2 blocks down from where McDonald's is. And so while she was homeless, staying in the shelter, she walked down there and they said, we're now hiring. She got a job. She put her whole self into this job. So she was ultra polite. I never had one wrong order. I swear to God, she never got my order wrong once. Because she was one of those people who would say like, all right, so you've got the 2 double cheeseburger meal plain. Then you've got a medium fry. You've got a large Diet Coke and a 10-piece chicken nugget. She goes, if you make it a chicken nugget meal and then get 2 plain cheeseburgers, you'll save yourself $1.50. Be like that kind of like.
She took care of you.
Right, exactly. Always a super pleasant when she handed out my food. If there's anything like asking me to pull forward into Space One, she's like, we want to make sure your fries are really fresh. So could you pull into Space One for me? Amazing employee. This woman at what was probably the lowest point in her life, took a job that most people say is for teenagers, right? And she excelled in it so much that if I could, I would have hired her to manage like a full company, because she had the right customer service attitude. And that's what I think is missing in the world right now, is customer service. She was amazing.
Right.
And I don't know if this young man is still employed there, but he certainly was, at least, at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a young guy who had he had great energy, right? Like, he belongs on the radio. He's like, "Hey, welcome to McDonald's. So glad you're here today. How's it going?" She's like, "Oh, it's good." He goes, "It's still raining outside. It sounds good. People have been using their windshield wipers. What can I get for you?" And that can come off as being annoying sometimes.
It
if you're
usually
in a
does
rush.
for me,
But it never was for me. It was because I don't feel like he was just filling the air with nothing. He genuinely was curious about what was going on outside of the McDonald's.
it's those moments in the rat race where a fellow human goes, "Hello, fellow human," and like treats you like a fellow human for a
Right.
moment.
And I know that this can be divisive to people, but he would also say, like, "Thanks for choosing McDonald's today. God bless you."
Mhm.
And like, the fact that he was choosing to share that with me, like when he handed me my bag every time, I thought, this guy's wishing me to have a good life right now. Like, he's not just like, "Thanks, enjoy your bun." And he's only saying that because
Right.
he's got to get 25 thank you buns
Right.
out this hour.
Yeah.
But that kid, like, and again, never had anything wrong. When he brought stuff out to my car, like to your car, if you were in Space One, it's not like he ran out and like shoved it into your car. And like, he would hold the bag. No one else does this. He'd hold the bag on the top and the bottom to make sure that it was like careful.
Right.
And that's another kid right there who, when they say, "Oh, I could get a job at Arby's next week and then I'll be the manager by, a month later."
Right.
I'm surprised that this kid doesn't own his own McDonald's franchise at this point.
We don't do enough to teach kids at an early age how far conscientiousness will get you.
100%. You're correct.
The fact that he was just showing awareness that this is your food and I'm just going to make sure that I'm taking care of it for you because that's my job, and I'm going to pay attention to you, and I'm going to be, you can make mistakes and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and be conscientious about it and fix it. But that attitude is the word you used, is the right attitude. It's not, you have to stick with it through the hard times. So it's not just have this attitude and you'll be fine. Like, you have to really own it through the hard times, but it's only with it that you're really going to see reward.
Do you ever purchase something and think how many hours of work you have to complete to be able to purchase this item?
Yeah, I have done that before.
The attitude that this kid had, let's say that my meal was $10, right? Now, if I make minimum wage, that is an hour and a half of my work to be able to afford this meal. For him to come forward and be treating it like you had to toil for 90 minutes to be able to afford this food, it should be right, it should be hot, and it should give you some sustenance.
Right.
That's how I felt he was treating me in this. And I feel like that has so much more power in it than somebody who says, "Here you go," and they didn't bother to check to make sure that the apple pie went in there.
Right.
So many things that people do in their lives, and then you think, "Oh, do I want to waste my time to go back in and complain? And it's only $2.
Right.
I wonder how many companies at the end of the day look at that and say, like, okay, we, our when you look at our inventory compared to what we sold today, we screwed people out of $300 worth of product.
Right.
That's not what they think, right? They're like, okay, we're at the point we are because we also mess up enough stuff that we had to throw away a batch of fries because someone didn't bother to pull them out of the oil fast enough. So screwing over the customer allows you to, break even so that your inventory matches what's going out. And that bothers me so much. And we're this far into the pandemic that there are restaurants I will never go to again based off their nonchalant carelessness of to-go orders, that I don't want to be a part of them.
Right.
I also think somebody needs to start a local version of Grubhub or DoorDash where the excellence is what they strive for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't tell you the number of times we've ordered like a French onion soup that has spilled in the bag. The driver doesn't
Right.
care.
Yep.
And the driver, even though they work for one of these big companies, represents your restaurant in this way.
Yep.
And how restaurants react to that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
By the way, don't use Bite Squad. They're the worst.
You need to find employees who sort of live that mantra throughout their lives, right? Like someone who does that, that's probably not someone that just switches that on for work and then switches it off when they get home, right? They're sort of approaching
Mm-hmm.
everything from more of a mature, I need to progress, this is my situation, and
Right.
I'm gonna keep going forward. And it will amaze people what it can do for them if they can learn the simple phrase at the end of any conversation with a potential client or whatever, or a customer, is there anything else I can do for you? Learn that phrase. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. But the biggest thing is that they're going to appreciate that you said that. Is there anything I can do for you?
Mhm.
Anything else? And it's not about, don't make it a gesture of transaction, right? Well, if I'm going to do that, you're going to have to do this. It's just more like, hey, let me know if there's anything else I can do as a human to make your life easier. And that stands out like a beacon in a storm.
At this last week, I was part of a radio-a-thon to raise money for a children's hospital. In 2 days of broadcasting on several of the stations that I'm a group with, we raised $180,000.
Nice.
That stays 100% local, right?
Awesome.
It was a record-breaking year. No, we've never raised that much money before. So I think it's pretty amazing that happened. But at the end of it, my boss walked in. He goes, "It's really good to know that you made a difference, isn't it?" And I thought to myself, yeah, it really does.
Mhm.
When you realize that something you've done makes a difference, that's great. And the difference doesn't have to be raising $180,000. The difference can be, did you make that person's day a little bit better? Did your presence in their story, did that make them feel better today? And I always try and strive to do that. And it's easy to complain about stuff, especially in this world of rating and reviewing online.
Right.
So I challenge people out there, for every bad review you write, make sure you write a good one.
Right.
Because I review stuff all the time. And my most read Google reviews are the 1 stars that I give. And I don't think that anyone cares about my 5 stars.
Right. Right. Do not underestimate the power of like the comment section on a company's website or the review section.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the one time I've ever done that where it was a real success was I had to just get a headlight changed on my car once. And it was something that I could have probably done myself for $20, but it was going to take me some time. And I was in a rush and it had just happened. I needed to get it fixed. And so I stopped at a car place, assuming that the price was going to be $20-$40, something like that. And it wasn't. The price was almost $200, and they didn't tell me that ahead of time. And I was on the hook for it because they'd fully done everything. And then I was like, oh, had I known it was $200, I would have just tried to do this myself. And I wish you had told me that. And the lady was like, she's like, yep, sorry, that's the deal. So, okay. So I went online and just wrote a review and said, this was the situation. And I understand that things have a cost, but you need to tell the customer what the cost is before you go ahead and do it. That's how car repair works. You're supposed to, they find out what it is, and then they give you a cost estimate, and then you decide if you want to go ahead with it or not. And this wasn't like a small business. This was a chain, part of a massive chain. But obviously there's a local franchise owner, and he called me that day, like within an hour of me posting this review. And he was very apologetic and said, we'll refund you this or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, that's not supposed to happen like that. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I took down my review because I had a complaint. He took care of it. But the thing was that I wasn't getting listened to by his employee there. So like I had to go to this other level to do it.
And you know what?
And you don't want to do that, but if you got to do it.
And to some level, you have to imagine that this guy, who is a small business owner, appreciates, because he needs to know that his employees are being kept like on check as well.
Right.
Years ago, the line benders and I had finished a show in Bismarck, and we're driving home, and we decided we're going to get tacos or we were going to get something to eat before we left Bismarck. So we went to one place, it was closed. Another place, it was closed. And it's 9 o'clock at night. We found a Taco John's that was open. So we went into this Taco John's, and we're sitting there for, no joke, 2 minutes, and nobody has come to the front of this thing. So finally, I yell, like, hello, hello. And someone comes out, and they're kind of bewildered that we're there. And he goes, what? And I was like, oh, well, we didn't make an order. He's like, oh, and I looked at the hours on their door when we were walking in. It's 9 o'clock. They don't close until 10. So it's an hour before closing.
He was trying to close it down an hour early.
He was. So much so, you could tell he had counted down his till because he told me that he couldn't accept cash. So, like, he had to take, so I had to run my credit card instead. Just no big deal. But then we went to use the pop machine, and I put my...
It had been disconnected.
Not disconnected. They had taken those nozzles off.
Oh, right.
Now, if you've ever used the thing without the nozzle, I immediately get covered in pop because it just goes... Poosh. And so I turn around. I'm like, hey, guy, we need this. He's like, oh, well, wait, are you guys all going to get the same one?
Can I just put one back in?
Can I just put one back in?
Just pop them all back in quick, dude, and then put them back in the soaker afterwards.
Now, there are 5 of us there. So this was, an $80, almost $90 order that we had. Each of us
thinking?
Right? So each of us, had
clearly not the manager.
So clearly not the manager. And it was middle of winter too, so if he had mopped, he's got to re-mop again. And again, I've worked at a place, right, where I've been a closer. If you can get a 15-minute head start on some of that, that's fine. An hour is too ballsy.
Yep.
Too ballsy. And even if you think only people are going to come through the drive-through, so I don't have to worry about the inside, still don't.
No.
So when I got home, I decided I am going to write a letter to this Taco John's because the owner needs to know. At one point, we thought about just walking away.
Right.
And again, this is an $80 to $90 order. That's a lot of money to a small business. That is this kid's entire shift wages.
Yep.
So I wrote a letter, and it was to the point where I always start these with saying, I do not want anything. I am not asking you for, a refund. I'm not asking for coupons. Please do not offer me anything like that. I am simply letting you know about an experience that I had. So I write this long letter, and I got a call. And I got a call from the manager, and he goes, yeah, could I ask you a couple more questions? I just need some more information about what's going on. He goes, okay. He goes, do you know what time you were there? And I'm like, I still have my receipt in front of me. I can tell you exactly what time we ordered, which is roughly 10 minutes after we arrived at your establishment.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave him all this information. He goes, okay. And so, what was the thing with the pop? And I explained that. And he goes, I really appreciate that. And I know you said you don't want anything, but could I send you some coupons? And I said, you can't. I don't actually even live in Bismarck.
Right.
And he goes, well, that is even worse because now I know you'll never stop at this Taco John's, right? And I said, you're absolutely correct. And he goes, well, I understand where you're coming from. And just so you know, I understand the importance of the fact that this kid who will probably work many jobs in his life did not value the customers enough at this point that he's lost us business in the future.
Right.
And that is the difficult thing when you have a business that doesn't have long-term employees.
Yep.
And
turnover's tough.
That has stuck with me for a long time because you have to really think about that. These people you're paying these people to represent your company and fulfill their customers' requests. And if they don't give a crap because they know that they're not going to be here forever, they end up driving customers away. So you end up having to spend more on advertising. You want to know why wages don't go up faster? It's because they're constantly having to clean up from, mistakes that have happened during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel you. I feel you. Always, whether you're a Taco John's or an Applebee's or a John Deere.
Well, that's cool that he at least leveled with you and was like, hey, thanks, man. And just... he had a human moment where he's like, all right, I've lost your business, so I can say this to you.
Yep. And you know what? I've stopped at the Taco John's probably 4 times since then.
There you go.
Yep. And that's all it took. And this wasn't a 45-minute long conversation. This was less than 5 minutes.
I had a great response from the Taco John's just down the street here the other day.
Oh, really?
Because I ordered some potato olays. And the guy goes, do you want any cheese or sour cream? And I said, no, I'm good. And he goes, really? Like he was who he gets without dips? But the thing is, it's better without the dips because their cheese sauce is weak and their mayo is even worse. Of course,
mayo. You mean their
sour cream? Their sour cream. Sorry, their sour cream.
Mayo on your tacos. You are Midwestern.
That's what the taco shop does, and it's delicious.
What?
Yeah,
gross,
dude. Mayo on tacos is delicious, but you don't like mayo on anything, so that doesn't make any sense for me to even say that to you.
This is how picky of an eater I am. They catered in lunch for us on Friday during this radiothon, and they got it from a really nice restaurant in town, like the type of place that you go before prom. And they're like, they're chicken or turkey sandwiches, and immediately I went like, oh, because usually when you get a pre-made sandwich, like when they're making lunch for everybody, it comes with sauces and stuff on it. I'm like, well, I'll take a chicken sandwich, and they brought it to me, and I'm like, oh my god. This potato bun is like perfectly, like they toasted the outside. It was crisp, it was perfect. And I lifted the bun up, no sauce. And I'm like, yes. So I lifted up the chicken, and this is like smoked chicken breast, like full breast meat, not shaved breast meat. And I'm like, yes. And I pull it up and I go, no. And it was a chipotle aioli. But luckily they had put that on the bottom bun, and then they had put a layer of protected lettuce. And so there was only a little bit that had transferred onto like the bottom of some of the chickens.
So did you have an open face?
I did. And I got a lot of looks from a lot of people wondering like, well, when you cutting carbs there, buddy?
I'm just going to have one of these two buns.
Yep. And I'm like, I only want the top. And then what was nice is the person who brought the food in there said, do you want me to go see if someone else doesn't want their top? And you could and they could take your bottom. And I'm like, no, I don't want someone to go home and explain that JJ Gordon thinks he's such a big shot that I'd eat two bottoms give him my top.
Could you cut the crusts off, please? Yeah, I'm surprised we've gone this far and haven't talked about Tuna Gate yet.
Oh, yeah. Subway.
Now, here's the thing.
We have talked about Subway, though.
We have, but here's the reason why I posted that on your Facebook wall. I haven't even read the story. I read the headline. I was like, that's good enough for me, and I posted. I don't even know exactly what their tuna is constituted of. But you are the only person that I know on terra firma that orders tuna fish at Subway. Mm-hmm. I don't even understand why they sell it. It makes no sense to me. Mm-hmm. Who chooses tuna when you are out and about? Tuna is something you make at home to put on crackers when you're depressed. That's what tuna's for.
Oh.
That's literally what it's for. That's why HR Tuna invented it.
Do you know one of my favorite things is tuna tetrazzini?
Yeah, well, guess what?
I was part of a class action lawsuit. If you listen to the last episode of JJ Meets World, the one previous to this, I will explain how I was part of a tuna class action lawsuit.
And I bet that coincided with a really dark part of your life.
It really did. It really did.
But like this is what JJ does in the in the line at Subway. He's like, I need you before you cut my sandwich. I need you to wipe that knife down completely. Because they have terrible wiping skills at Subway. So that knife's going to have mustard, mayonnaise, Southwest sauce, you name it, meatball, marinara sauce on it. And I've seen you ask for them to wipe the blade. They attempt to. They cut your sandwich, then you just throw the sandwich away. It was like, I just watched JJ go through.
I only throw away the whole sandwich if they do what I call the knife fold, which is where they put the knife. For some reason, they fold the bread over on top of the knife, and they use the bread to pull.
Not for some reason. I get why they do it.
There's no.
But they should have
friggin' reason why they should do that.
They should have its own device that does that. It shouldn't be the knife that does that.
Right. They're like, oh, well, don't worry. We'll make sure you get all your mayonnaise on there. But they're not using that. They use a spatula to put mayonnaise on there. There's no reason why that knife should get pulled through your sandwich. Now, those sandwiches, yes, I will throw away if they don't follow my instructions or if I fail to give them because I'm making some amazing James Gandolfini joke to my friends in line and I forget to get them before that moment. But if
those moments when I'm at line and I'm making one of my old James Gandolfini jokes.
But if they slice if they slice the sandwich and it's only on the slice areas of the bread, so both sides of the sandwich have it, but it's only there, I will eat from the backside in, so from the butt of the bread to what you would consider, I don't know, maybe the middle.
Does that feel like a slice of pizza starting with the crust?
It does, and it's bonkers. Who does that?
That would bother me a lot. That would really bother me a lot.
JJ Meets World listener, try eating a piece of pizza crust first. It's like going into an elevator and staring back towards the wall instead of towards the door.
Right. You'll start looking
unsettling.
You'll start looking at your hands going, which one is left again?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which.
Am I dead or alive?
Yeah.
I don't know. I do eat the tuna at Subway, and I will also eat it at other sandwich shops. And I also know that that's super hypocritical because the tuna salad is made with mayonnaise. I know that.
Is it? Well, then what is it tuna? What is it?
I don't know.
So neither of us actually read that story.
Well, I think the problem is that there's enough other fish product in there that they can't call it tuna. Like, it has to be 51% tuna to be called tuna, and it's only 30% tuna, like 20% cod.
So if anything, the thing that we can certainly take away is that there's a cloud of suspicion,
correct,
over the tuna at Subway.
Also, in Ireland, did you read this?
I
mentioned it in a comment back to you, but there is so much sugar in the bread that they make at Subway, and they make their own bread. They're very proud of it. That
it's not good bread.
In Ireland, you can't call it bread. Really? It has become to the point of where they're like, this is actually closer in a molecular level to cake than it is to bread. And so they can't claim it's Italian herbs and cheese bread. It's Italian herbs and cheese like cake. Or they have to come up with some new word, but they cannot legally in the country of Ireland call their bread. So you technically are not eating a sandwich if the definition of a sandwich is some kind of a protein between two slices of bread.
Is there a fast food chain in operation right now? Let's not locally but nationally, that was able to get to its level of current success without having to lessen the quality of the product they make? Because obviously when you're making things at scale, right? And like you said, those dollars and cents add up over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it costs you $1 to make a meat patty versus $1.05, you're incentivized to go with the $1, but maybe that difference in size is actually the difference in quality too, right? So they're basically doing this math where they're going, what's the cheapest we can make this product that people will still buy it at and consider it a valuable product? So is there a national fast food chain that has gotten to scale without having to compromise on quality?
Yes, but it's dessert based. I would say Dairy Queen. The ice cream recipe, I don't feel is less than the ice cream they were making 40 years ago.
Well, you have to not wander off the ice cream section of the menu to come to that conclusion, I think. At Dairy Queen.
But I mean, that's the question, right? Is there a place that's famous for their product?
And I am unconvinced that you have raised an option that meets the threshold of the spirit of the question.
But I mean,
have you had a burger at Dairy Queen?
I never enjoy the hot eats. I only like the cool treats at DQ.
I have a moment every 2 years or so where I undergo this weird mental game where I go, maybe things have changed at Dairy Queen since last I've been there. I should get it again. The one thing that I do like about Dairy Queen is I like their Royale, but it gives me. It wasn't until recently that I realized why it's a good thing that they do the upside down thing. I used to always hate that. I still it does give me an anxiety. But one time
when they turn the blizzard upside down,
they show you if it's not going to fall out.
Mm-hmm. Is that well mixed?
But that's actually a really useful thing because I've gotten a cool treat from Dairy Queen before, and they didn't do the demonstration. And within seconds of driving away, I found out that it's actually fairly melted. It's not like it's been sitting for a while or something. So you're kind of getting at least a strong confidence boost that at this moment it's not going to melt.
Yeah.
But you're not taking into consideration the drive from the Dairy Queen to your place. Are you running heat in your car right now? Is someone going to hold it in their hands and that hand heat is going to transfer? So you got to wolf it down. And I do not at all agree with the notion of I'm going to eat some of this blizzard and then I'm going to put it in the fridge.
That's
the
worst.
That's so stupid. It's completely changed.
I still think that that's a good answer to your question.
I thought you were going to say Applebee's.
No, that's not fast food. Also, I will tell you this:
it's a restaurant chain, but you're right. It's not a fast food chain.
Applebee's uses such a low grade chicken for their boneless wings that sometimes I think, why don't you just sell me fried breading?
I can't believe I haven't talked to you about this, JJ.
Yeah.
I found the best boneless wings in town.
Really?
Yeah. And you're not gonna. I'm gonna give you 3 chances to guess where.
Okay.
I guarantee you're gonna fail every time. But
Granite City.
Nope.
These are boneless wings.
Boneless wings.
It's the Speakeasy Italian Grill.
Nope. One more chance.
Can you give me an area of town? And don't say Restaurant Row. Also, I had a dream last night.
25th Street
25th Street.
South.
South. Okay. So I'm traveling, and is this a restaurant or fast food? Am I allowed to ask that?
You're. I think I've given you the hint.
Okay. Doolittle's.
No. Leela Thai.
What?
So they have this item they call it volcano chicken.
Okay.
Is what it's called. And you can get it in 2 flavors, either a pineapple sauce or a spicy Asian sauce, is what they call it. Dude, these are boneless wings, is what they are.
They're that good?
And they are so good. They are nice and crispy. They're steaming hot when they come out because it's not the main thing they're making. So it's not like they're making a massive batch that like Applebee's probably does on some level, right? And then they dole them out over a period of time. They're nice and crisp. They reheat amazingly, and they come on a bed of crispy baked spinach.
Ooh.
Which I'd never had before. And so getting a bunch of crispy spinach on your fork and then getting a piece of a buffalo wing that's covered in boneless buffalo wing that's covered in like spicy sauce, dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
That good, huh?
Yeah, so Leela Thai, 25th Street South, 13th Avenue in Fargo. Best boneless wings in town. But they call it volcano chicken.
Interesting.
So try that out.
You'll have to take Tucker's word for it because I can't eat it, Leela Thai. Did you know that?
Wait, no, you can't?
I can't.
All right, wait, hold on. All right, hold on. Are you unable to eat at Leela Thai for the same reason that you are unable to eat mayo and mustard? Or have you been forbidden from eating at Leela Thai and you cannot walk through the threshold of its doors?
It's a choice. I've eaten there twice. Once with you, actually, like right when they opened.
Wow, that's a
You
while
and then
ago.
previous guest Greg Carlson and I
Okay.
had lunch there.
Okay.
This is before they had changed their menu because they had a misprint and it was bags of glod instead of bags of gold,
Yep.
which is great.
Which is still delicious.
And then I went back there and I had like a soup that they serve like in a steaming clay pot.
Okay.
And it had shrimp in it and some other
Was
stuff.
it like a faux?
And not like a pho. It was it's called like a hot pot.
Okay.
And on my third bite, I bit into something and I'm like, oh my God, I just hit something really hard. Like I hit a rock, but it disintegrated in my mouth. And then all of a sudden my mouth started bleeding. And I took another scoop out and there was glass inside of this thing. So at one point,
Whoa!
something must have broken. Glass got into this pot.
Okay, some accident of some kind.
Yeah, exactly. But so I was very mad because I called my waitress over and I'm like, there's glass in this. And she's like, oh no, do you want like another? And I'm like, and at this point, blood is now like trickling out the
Are
side
you
of my
injured?
mouth.
Do you need first aid?
Right, exactly. And so I was like, I said, I need to pour this out and find out how much, glass is in here because I've had a couple bites and like if I've ingested glass, I need to know. And she's like, okay. And so she took it to the back and so she poured it out and she came back with another one and she's like, here you go. Like we got rid of the other one. I'm like, I told you I needed to know what was in the other one. And she like refused to say anything about it. And so we left and I also did not pay my bill.
Well, yeah, at that point, you'd
Yeah.
eaten glass, so I don't
Right.
think they were going to be like, hey.
And like even right now, like think about like my stomach hurts and I probably nothing happened to me like where, it didn't shred my insides or anything like that. But the anxiety I had for like the next 3 days.
Okay, so I was going to give you crap for like, I thought this was going to be like, oh, did they not fill your soda up within
Or like
15
when
minutes?
I threw up at IHOP.
And
then they're like,
they're not going to let you do
banned.
that. I'm not going to have to clean my bathroom too, am I? I want to be like, lady, first, it's not your bathroom. You're the manager here. You're not the franchise owner. Second, I don't know. Don't you have employees that clean stuff for you? And third, aren't you going to ask why he's suddenly projectile vomiting in your restaurant? It's certainly his and my fault, but shouldn't you be concerned that he didn't
Also,
get food poisoning?
Madam, did you not see the swell of just excitement that he and this other portly gentleman was able to muster inside of your sad IHOP while people were going like, go, go, go. There was an energy.
Yeah.
until he threw up into his hand and had to rush to the bathroom. But no, what I'd love for some time is for you to bring like 4 boneless buffalo wings in and have those be one of them, and so then I just won't know.
Oh, I'm down. We can definitely try that. We've got a couple of food related things we've wanted to do on the show, and I think we can start working towards them. So,
on that note,
let's do it.
Let's wrap up this episode because I am very hungry for boneless wings now. And even though I've been to McDonald's twice already today, I haven't eaten yet.
Neither have I. I've been
not that I'm going to go back to McDonald's because they,
chicken nuggets are not boneless wings.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. You need to start using that elliptical that you use to dry laundry.
And now I'm going to be up all night wondering what the difference is between chicken nuggets and boneless wings.
That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. McDonald's was stolen from the McDonald brothers by Ray Kroc, and his last name was Kroc.